important and our teleconference people, we've been recording them so you can actually see them later, even though you didn't get to see them live by teleconference, you're going to be able to see them later by a recording. Now, we're back on schedule. Our next guest is Alfred Labramont Weber, and he's going to talk to us about Xico Xavier and the new beginning of the Mayan calendar. So I'll give an introduction to Mr. Weber, and you're all clear to go.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I feel very privileged to be here today and very happy because my presentation is actually July 20th, 2019, Consciousness and Contact, which is where the Xico Xavier prophecy that there'll be no World War III was actually fulfilled here at the July 20th, 2019 Consciousness and Contact conference. So we're all going to share in that. And then today, July 25th, 2021 is what they call the Mayan calendar day out of time. Yesterday, July 24th, was the last day of the old Mayan year, and tomorrow, July 26th, is the Mayan New Day, and today is a day out of time. They've done that on their zodiac to have an extra day, and it's a special day. So we'll go into what we should all do today and what gifts we're going to have and where our consciousness should be. And so we'll be doing that. Today, the Chico Xavier prophecy of 19th and 20th July 2019 was actually fulfilled here at the Consciousness and Contact 19 to 20th July 2019, which is something of a miracle. And what that means is that there's going to be no World War III on the planet, even though the matrix powers are pushing for it, and that Earth and humanity will join the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And that's something that has been a feature on the positive timeline, and it looks like it's going to manifest. So we'll be exploring more of that, and we can all sit back and relax in a way. Now, July 24th, as we mentioned, 2021 is the last day of the Mayan calendar. So today, July 25th, 2021 is the day out of time. And tomorrow, July 26th, 2021 is the Mayan calendar New Year's Day. It's known as a green day, and it's called the day out of time or green day. It's a day where Mother Earth, the creator of the universe, the spiritual plane, and our souls are reflected, celebrated, and thanked. It's a great spiritual day to just take a spiritual day and thank for all the lessons of life that we have learned during the previous Mayan year. And let me tell you, from July 24th, 2020 to July 24th, from July 26th, 2020 to July 24th, 2021, we've all learned a great deal, I think, because of the environmental conditions that we have all faced. I won't go into the P word and all sorts of other words, but we've all learned a great deal. It is the day of union and love with Mother Earth for all that she has helped us during the Mayan year. If you have a predisposition to synchronize day by day with the Mayan energies, the Mayan calendar, which is actually a Pleiadian calendar, is set up to synchronize what your day by day energies can be. Each day you can synchronize with the galactic center, which is called Unabku, and connect the mission of your soul with the Galactic Center Unapku, which is how we receive the signals from the divine source in through our crown chakras. And that is what, all these technological weapons like HARP are meant to try and interfere with the cords coming out of our crown chakras that receive these signals from Unapku. The Galactic Center, where the divine source is sending its signals. And then you can begin to realize and understand the deep meaning of the day out of time. Also, today, the Green Day works as a mini prediction, which gives us an anticipation of what we will live and experience in the following year, in the year July 26, 2021 to July 24th, 2022. And as long as we remain tuned spiritually and correctly, the energy that will be descending on the planet from the Galactic Center Unapku during the coming year. And the energy of today, and all of this is coming to us from a Mayan teacher, Cada Olmedo of Argentina, who has been working with the interdimensional Mayan teachers out of the Palenque, Yucatan pyramid. They channel themselves through that. And she has been being taught for the last 15 years by them, as well as understanding in real time how the Mayan calendar is structured, the energy of the day. And she also does monthly updates on Exopolitics TV. You can go to Exopolitics TV and get the update. And then we have the translation both in Spanish and in English. So you can follow each month of the Mayan calendar. Just go to youtube.com Exopolitics TV and you'll be able to follow that. Now, the energy of today, the day out of time, which will be governing the next Mayan New Year, for good verbal and spiritual communication, your intuition and your emotions will help you attract the reality that you want. So this looks like it's going to be a coming year that emphasizes verbal and spiritual communication. Spiritual communication, being communication of the soul, your intuition and emotions. So it's a lot about inner feelings will help you attract and create the reality that you want. Now, what we're going to do now is start out with a kind of a summary of the Mayan calendar. This is about a 10-minute summary of Xico Xavier. There are on the internet many prophecies about many people. Many of the prophecies are just false and trying to gain attention and playing on the credibility of the masses. At the same time, there are prophets and which are serious, such as Edgar Casey and others. And we're showing you portraits here. In this video, we're going to show you the prophecies of the important prophecies, which relate to the quote end times this is zone 0 with the first. And these are the prophecies of Chico Xavier. Francisco Xico Xavier was a medium Brazil who lived between 1910 and 2012 in the city of Minas Gerais, Brazil. even though his work was not only in Brazil, in the whole world. In his whole world, he wrote 450 books, and he sold 40 million books that were translated into 30 languages, and he didn't take a cent for them because he said that spirit was the audience, and he did not receive any royalties. Rather, he gave all of the sales of the 40 million books to nonprofit organizations helping people, because he said he was not the author of these books, but the interdimensional spirits who told all of the words in these books. Xico Xavier, in his life, he dedicated his world to healing, spiritualism, and the benefit of the community, and to he predicted man's landing on the moon in 1938. At the last stages of his life, he was in a hospital of Uberaba in Brazil, and he had pneumonia at age 91. So he thought he was going to die. 30th of June, as BBC Breakfast was covering him on the news, a mysterious light came down in front of the hospital into Chico Xavier's hospital. And you can ask, what is the light and what window did it go into? It went into Chico Xavier's window. And Chico Xavier was asked if he saw the light or something strange, and he asked yes. He asked yes. That was the soul of my mother asking me to be patient, and it was the soul of my guide Emmanuel. The two lights. After this events, Xico Xavier had a miraculous and unexplainable healing, and was completely healed from what was a almost deathly thing. Emmanuel, in his spirit guide, told him that he should then spread two prophecies that he made in 1986, but he had not yet spread. And this was 1991. And he should make these two prophecies very public, because they were very important. And we're going to talk about those two prophecies now. These were 1986 prophecies made very public in 1991. Number one, man will create World War III, but it will be nature that will stop World War III with volcanic eruptions and earthquakes, which will completely destroy the northern hemisphere. That's prophecy number one. That was the prophecy number one, made in 1986 and made very public in 1991. Chico Xavier saw that. Another 1986 prophecy that he super said in 1991 is that Brazil and the Southern Hemisphere will be the breadbasket of the world, and also oil was discovered off of Brazil, and in 2 decades, he said, there will be huge amount. And in 2007, there was a huge 8 8 billion barrels of oil were discovered off of the Sea of Brazil and in 2007, Brazil gave this to Shell, ExxonMobil, and that could have been Xico Xavier's 1986 prophecy. So this is all part of if there's a World War III, then, and then a third prophecy said that that the United Nations and the northern powers will occupy the countries of the southern hemisphere if there's a third world war, which will destroy the northern hemisphere. That's what will happen to this planet if there's a third world war. And the hemisphere, the southern hemisphere nations will be taken over by the powerful nations of the northern hemisphere. Now, here is the last prophecy that we're coming to, because this is a different prophecy from the other ones and is very, very serious. And it's very interesting and very strange. Because this prophecy is coming up now. Here, Xico Xavier gives a specific year and date for its fulfillment. Prophecy of Xico Xavier made in 1986. Jesus Christ Lord gave 20 years from 1969 until July 2019. See, July 2019 is the limit date. And this is the date, last date into which the earth can enter into the community of nations, where we can integrate, earth can integrate itself into the community of nations. In this prophecy, says that interplanetary vehicles will land and people will see them, inviting us to join into a community of nations, and people will see them. And from this point, and from a certain point of view, and there's a second option here, which Xico Xavier says in the first prophecy. Xico Xavier said that there was an option that humanity could start World War III, but there's an option if humanity by July 2019 had not started World War III, the change of all changes will take place and humanity will be contacted to be part of this change. On part of this, Xico Xavier devoted a whole year after 1991 to broadcast these prophecies worldwide, and took 1 year from 1991 to broadcast these worldwide. At the end of that year, in 92, he went to the same hospital where that light came, and he asked the nurse, how did Brazil do in the World Cup? The nurse said Brazil won, and with that, Xico Xavier put his ties in his chest and he died. Now, is Xico Xavier correct? Comment with us, subscribe here with us. And this is, thank you. This is Zone 13. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next slide and the update as to what occurred over the July 19th to July 20th, 2019, the predicted dates. ET spacecraft hovering over July 19th to July 20th, 2019, the Pine Ridge All Nations Lakota Sundance fulfills Chico Xavier 50-year prophecy. No World War III, and humanity will join a peaceful galactic community. Mia Farolletto. Pine Ridge Reservation, Lakota Territory. And this is where we interviewed Mia Farolletto. In this apocalyptic interview with Alfred Lambert Weber, author and researcher, Mia Farolletto confirms that the ET extraterrestrial spacecraft hovering over a sacred Lakota Sundance performed over the July 19th to 21st, 2019 weekend at the All Nations Center, Pine Ridge Reservation, Lakota Territory, is a confirmation of the prophecy of Brazilian prophet and medium Chico Xavier, followed by millions of adherents worldwide. On July 19, 2019, a day before Chico Javier's prophetic fulfillment, researchers Francisco Arteaga of Mexico and Alfred Lambert Weber discussed the implications of the final prophecy of Brazilian Mito Chico Xavier, who in his 92-year lifetime made multiple scientifically validated prophecies about future events, and who donated all profits of his 40 million book sales worldwide to charity because the books in his mind were written by his interdimensional sources. Chico Xavier prophecy that the universal high powers gave 50 years of grace to Earth starting July 19th to 20th, 1969. And if the Third World War has not started by July 1920, 2019, Earth would join a peaceful galactic society of worlds. Coincidentally, the reported moon landing occurred on July 20th, 1969, the start of the 50-year period of Chico Xavier prophecy. Now, there's a lot of controversy about that moon landing. We won't go into that now. ET UFO sightings. As part of the July 19th, 20th, 2019 prophecy, Chico Xavier also prophesied UFO sightings to accompany the fulfillment of the prophecy on July 20th, 2019. The July 20th, 2019 ET UFO craft sighting over the sacred Lakota Sundance at Pine Ridge Reservation is a fulfillment of the explicit terms of the Chico Xavier prophecy. And that's where you can go at newsinsideout.com, our website, to listen to this interview and see more information. Now, here's more information, and that's a photograph from the July 2019 Sundance held at these Consciousness and Contact Conference 2019. Chico Xavier, Lakota Sundance, Consciousness Contact, No World War III, and Humanity Joins Omniverse of Galactic Nations with Ananda Bosman. In this epical panel with Alfred Lambert Weber, author, contactee, and researcher Ananda Bosman confirms that the ET extraterrestrial spacecraft hovering over a sacred Lakota Sundance performed on July 20th at the All Nations Center, Pine Ridge Reservation, Lakota Territory, is a confirmation of the prophecy of Brazilian prophet and medium Xico Xavier. Question, are there any actual photos of the UFOs over the Pine Ridge Reservation on July 1920th, the days of the prophecy? Here is the statement of Ananda Bosman, a presenter, which I obtained a few days ago. Greetings, dear Alfred. At the July 20th Sundance, we were not allowed to take our phones with us, so no movies were taken, no cameras allowed by non-natives. In 2020, I was corresponding with Chief Golden Light Eagle, who asked which of the many Sundances that were going on that day I was part of, he could see if any of the indigenous had filmed the UFO. There were many cameras there. So that search is still in progress into the Lakota people who had cameras, who were at the Sundance, to see if a photograph at the precise Lakota territory, Lakota location can be shown. But there are numerous witnesses, which we have published at newsandsunout.com, and you can go there and we'll be publishing their accounts to verify it. Now let's go to the next thing. So here is multiple UFOs. Shannon Kelly's UFO exhibiting characteristics akin to the Sundance UFO. And this was taken not far from Pine Ridge on July 19th to 20th, 2019, which close to the Nebraska state line. And the common denominator there is that Joan Bird, who knows Shannon Kelly, who took these photos of the UFOs, that was like the UFO at Pine Ridge, but was next door to it, close to the Nebraska state line, was also with Ananda Bosman. Joan Bird, who knows Shannon and can verify this, was with Ananda Bosman at Sundance. So we have, here are multiple UFOs that were photographed, not at Pine Ridge, but adjacent to it, close to the Nebraska state line. So there we go. This is like the law of evidence. And you know, this is what you introduce to the court of public opinion. Now let's go to the next slide. The UFOs, July 20th, 2019, the July portal, correlation to the 50-year prophecy of Chico Xavier of no World War III after July 20th. So that what Ananda Bosman has done at my request for this presentation is to do a worldwide study of the worldwide UFO flap that in fact occurred. And this is the first time that this study has been done, and that we'll be showing here. And that is the reference to it. There's so many slides, and we're already at 28 minutes of this presentation. There are so many slides, we couldn't put them into the PowerPoint because you need a 2-hour or more per presentation. So we're just going to go out of here a second. And what we're going to do here is, let me just go out of this here, and we're going to go here. And I think you can, we'll go share again to share screen. And we'll go here and we'll show here. So I think that you all are seeing here, this is the July portal. And these are all of the UFO sightings. And I'll just do this very quickly, worldwide. And you can go to exopolitics.com and you'll see all of these UFOs worldwide in New York, in Mastic Beach, in Australia, in Canada, in Costa Rica, in Greece, in Russia, in the UK, in Florida, in Alabama, in California, in Florida, in Nevada, in Newark, North Carolina, Ireland, in Seoul, Korea, in Florida again, Idaho, in Pontiac, in Colburn, in Messick, in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania, in Utah, in Argentina, in Australia again, in Brazil, in France, in Germany, in Peru, in Spain, and more in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Minnesota, in Ohio, in Virginia, in Washington State, in Florida. And this is just a sample of the worldwide UFO flap that took place not only over the Pine Ridge Reservation, not only adjacent as Shannon Kelly's photograph shows, but worldwide in fulfillment of the Chico Xavier prophecy, where he said that if no world war has broken out by July 20th, July 19th, 20th, 2019, there's going to be no World War III, and humanity and Earth will join the Galactic Federation of Peaceful Worlds, and there's going to be a worldwide UFO flap that humanity will see. So that is the article. Now, what we're going to do is we just wanted to show you that. There was just so many we couldn't incorporate it into. We're going to rejoin our normal PowerPoint now and go with that and bring that up. And so here we are back here. So now let's go here, and we'll be joining Ananda on a recent TV program that Ananda and I did about this subject matter. And this is Ananda Bosman. And we are looking at the July 20th, 2019 UFO portal and the 50-year prophecy of Chico Xavier that if World War III had not broken out by July 20th, 2019, we would have no World War III, and there would be a worldwide UFO flap around July 20th, 2019. And we have here a participant in that envelope, Ananda Bosman, who will, on August 21st, will be leading a global press conference, but who will bring us into the reality of the fulfillment of the Chico Xavier prophecy. Ananda Bosman, over to you.
Thank you, dear Alfred. It's always an honor and a pleasure, and to be working with you now in concierto. We are a trio in this effort of press conferences. And thank you. It was you who brought this awareness of Xico Xavier and his 50-year prophecy into light. As we are doing a global multi-metropolitan press conference, which is the international civilian and academic ufological community's response to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force's preliminary report, which I thoroughly covered on June the 26th, and we touched upon last week. It is of essence to note that the report mainly focused on UFO activity from 2019 onwards. It was in March of 2019 that they got the equipment installed, but in the July window of 2019, the equipment was being tested to its limits. Hundreds of UAPs, which initially the media were calling unidentified drones, but now have been considered genuine unidentified aerial phenomena, as they could not pinpoint any source to them, appeared in the Pacific, doing all kinds of maneuvers, staying up to 2 or 3 hours parallel to the trajectory of the various naval vessels, and some of which exhibited transmedial qualities, unaffected if they were in water or out of water, and disappeared without a trace. No other Navy or military unit had any operations going on. There were deep investigations by the UAP task force through all branches of government. In our June version of the mainstream media UAP bibliography, we also quote from a source that researcher Richard Dolan obtained, a reliable source according to him, and Dolan's track record is pretty good, which stated that there was a statement in the classified report that Area 51 does work on exotic technologies. There are nuclear, there are water, hydrogen systems, a list of different exotic systems was leaked in that statement to Dolan, but that all of their test flights do not leave the premises of the Nevada test site, and that which was observed by multiple types of equipment in the Pacific was not an operation of Area 51. Of course, we know there are many other, or there are numerous other places where exotic technology of various forms and levels of classification are being tested, but it gives indication that the UAP task force was trying to identify through the different branches if there was a covert US operation taking place. The press conference that we're holding is a civilian-based one, an academic-based one. We have pointed to the three groups in the ufological community. The third group, of course, will continue pursuing covert black world technology behind the UAP phenomenon. Now, I was invited by Mia Ferraletto to join the Consciousness and Contact conference in South Dakota at the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation of the Lakota indigenous people. It was a beautiful gathering of many contactees, experiences, people like Whitley Strieber, Yvonne Smith, and many others. And so we each gave our presentations. I gave a presentation on the Friday, the 19th, somewhat akin to our super intelligence hypothesis, a early version thereof. And the next day we went to the Sundance. And so at the end of the morning hours, something happened. However, before I went to the Sundance, in talking with Mia and communicating with Mia, I always had this image of a UFO parked in the daylight over the Sundance, somewhat akin to what happened in Mexico, July the 11th, 1991, fulfilling a prophecy of the fifth, sixth sun by the Dresden Codex. From that particular event, which was filmed from multiple directions as people were filming and trying to capture the eclipse of that day in accordance to the Dresden Codex prophecy, multiple angles from different cities of that UFO was picked up. And this began the Mexico mega wave of UFOs, which went into fleets. Of course, the history of fleets goes back a long, long time. In our book, The Alien Presence from 1993, we already were able to list for hundreds of years of astronomer sightings of UFOs leaving Mars, Venus, crossing the sun, crossing the body of the moon. And the fleets have been seen in Nuremberg, and you can go back in history. This fleet phenomena is nothing new. And even the Foo Fighters of World War II would take, at times, fleet conformations. So the early 50s had the fleets as well. The fleet phenomena started to then change during the 70s, and in Geneva in 1991, you start getting this triangulation of fleets with different geometrical contours and formations. as a kind of alphabetic language, which has been persistent in the fleet phenomenon. The fleet phenomenon then built up in Mexico after the 7/11 event, 1991. Two fleets joining together and becoming these organic snakes in the sky, like Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent, and various other formations, which then spread to North America and South America. So people started to discover the power of summoning the UFO and focusing out in space, having compassion, gratitude, knowing that in this compassion there will be a response, and a response comes. This is something I discovered as a young man when I was 15 after a near-death experience. And this became a nearly daily occurrence. So the Sundance in South Dakota, 2019, July 20th, I had visualized this UFO parked over it. It was just simply there. Then as we were watching the ceremonies and our group kind of dispersed with the natives, which was quite a large gathering. We were not allowed to have our phones with us, and there were other rules which we had to abide to and which we respected. So feeling the energy of the Sundance, the linking to Wonkantonka, the great creator, I went out into space with a coherent mind and heart. Laser was a clear connection, the presence was there, and I projected that image of parking over the Sundance. Several other people did their protocols with meditation, whichever their protocols were. And then the response came. The initial vehicle that appeared there was seen by members of my group to be releasing a plasma series of arms, and spheres were also released from it. By the time I saw it, the arms looked more like scattering patterns. However, later we found films not far away, just across the border from Nebraska, from Shannon Kelly, who was a friend of one of the participants, Joan Bird. And she found his footage to be very similar. I looked through the hundreds of hours of films that he has taken as a contactee. And indeed, some of the footage was identical to the object we were seeing, which was parked there for 2 hours. It wasn't at the zenith per se, it was more towards the 1, sometimes 2 o'clock position, but this would shift. So either side of the zenith. As it was taking place, Whitley Strieber was suggesting in the first 10 minutes, these could be drones. So when one has a UFO experience, one also takes in parallel logic, the paralogistics set in. So the skeptical researchers said, could this be a drone that was running? Another parallel logic I chose was, could this be Venus? This is July. There is a rare phenomenon where Venus can become visible in July in the high sun or close to the zenith. So I wanted to examine, is there a procession going on with this object? So it was extremely hot, despite that there were winds. So we withdrew to a tree, to the shade of the tree, where I could use a branch to measure if the object was processing. At first, it seemed that it was, but then after a while, it clearly wasn't. It was taking different trajectories. Someone with us in the group, Stephanie Finch, was also doing this examination. Much to her credit, she stayed there till the very, very end and watched the object take a trajectory and fly off away from the Sundance towards the All Nations Gathering Center, which is where we had our lectures. Now, only some people stayed at the UFO at the Sundance, because in the first 20 minutes, half an hour, we received word that we should all go back to the All Nations Gathering Center. I did deliver that message, but all of the group that stayed said, no, we're not going back. This was consciousness in contact. There was a UFO. And we had to see it to the end. I kind of resonated to that. I have respect, of course, for my colleagues speaking as well. I was not the driver. There were numerous drivers. So we watched that till the end, came back, continued with the conference. The next day, three of us, Kevin Briggs, David Cottrell, and myself, in the evening, it was dark, I suggested, why don't we do a protocol? We were by the teepees at the All Nation Gathering Center. We each have our different ways of getting in contact with our sources. So we proceeded to do so, some form of meditational coherence. Kevin Briggs, then, who is a contactee with communication, then decided to check in and go to sleep. David Cottrell and I remained, and we had several UFO incursions. One of which appeared directly above us, fully powered up with a beam at the 20-minute position on the clock before it. And then as it powered down, the beam went into invisibility and the object went over the All Nations Gathering Center towards the field behind. Now, looking at the Shannon Kelly movie footage with these plasma beams and the sphere attached, should that be illuminated during the night, it looks pretty similar to what we were seeing there. In other words, either the same object that we saw over the Sundance or one that is of same self-similarity. We went inside. Now, I had forgotten this. I reread through the PowerPoint of Alfred, my initial report. As we came into the All Nations Gathering Center, there was several people chatting, having a conversation about something. But all the lights were flickering in odd ways. Now, I didn't remember that because I've had so much of that in my life. It's unremarkable for me. It's a classic aspect that happens with close UFO contacts. A bit later, Rebecca Chief Eagle, who was hosting us with Dallas Chief Eagle, went to the bathroom of the All Nations Gathering Center, looked out the window, and saw the UFO with a beam aimed to the ground in the field behind. So this is the sequence of the UFOs that were seen there. There were much higher up objects also seen, and there were other phenomena that occurred. It is something I wrote down immediately when I flew from South Dakota to my colleague Param Jill, filmmaker in California, because I know that one has to write down every detail immediately after UFO events because of the memory loss that occurs by the nature of memory on this planet. So I'm glad I did that because we got the details that were necessary, which I immediately shared with Alfred and my own general mailing group. I continue to have UFO sightings in California, some of which looked like other film footages of Shannon Kelly. And when I came back to British Columbia, we were at Roberts Creek, and they continued. So my whole family continued to see this rotating like UFO. And these UFOs that blink in many places at the same time. So in those first 10, 20 minutes, we were considering turn. Alan Steinsfield came to me and said, what do you think? I said, well, I'm trying to communicate with it, and I'm familiar generally with a UFO. There is a consciousness exchange, but I wasn't getting that. The only consciousness connection was that I had the image of what was to be already in British Columbia, and that is what I projected out into space, and then it manifested that way. But when it reached 2 hours, tremendously high winds, already winds at ground level, and the higher up you go, the stronger the winds there, it held its position steadfast, slight variations around the zenith, 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock maybe 2 o'clock position, and without appearing to be swayed by any wind. There were rumors of some drone testing by the US government and military, but the areas given were very, very far away, in another part of North Dakota and another part of South Dakota, not in that area. Interestingly, we didn't know this at the time. The UAP task force report, the preliminary report that has been released, has a great deal of focus on July 15th to July 26th, where on a daily basis, the naval vessels were receiving UAP, UFO incursions, and sometimes hundreds of them. The USS Omaha footage was accepted by the Pentagon as official footage. Some of the footages that were released were said to be genuinely of UAPs. Furthermore, radar data was also released to the public, and this was officially released. So there were high levels of UFO incursions taking place in the Pacific. But I took a rudimentary look, basically just over one day, of other UFO sightings in that window in July. And there are plenty of UFO sightings all over the world.
Right, so you can see that we now have ample evidence and ample documentation of the UFO manifestation over Pine Ridge that accompanied the worldwide manifestation of UFOs in fulfillment of the Xico Xavier 50-year prophecy that was fulfilled on July 19th to 20th, 2019, meaning that from that point of view, that prophecy, which came from his guide, Emmanuel, which some people say is Jesus, that there'll be no World War III and that humanity and Earth is now going to enter the Galactic Federation of Peaceful Worlds. So that's all along the positive timeline. And that is magnificent disclosure. Disclosure at a level that is planetary, solar system, galactic-wide, and goes to Unapku, the center of the galaxy. And that brings us to the day out of time. What is the day out of time, and why would it? Why could it change your life? According to the Mayan calendar, July 25th is a day out of time. We may go just a few minutes beyond the allotted hour here. I apologize. What does that mean? July 26th in the Gregorian calendar coincides with the celebration of the Mayan New Year, which runs until July 24th in the following year. But what is July 25th? This is a so-called day out of time. The time of the Earth is in tune with the frequencies of the universe. For this reason, a year lasts what for us would be 13 months of 28 days, exactly the time it takes for the Earth to make a complete turn of the sun, according to the lunar cycles. That is why 1 year in the Mayan calendar is equivalent to 13 complete moons. But if you count well, you will see that 13 months of 28 days give a result of 364, leaving one as the lost day or the time, the day out of time. On that day, the sun is synchronized with the brightest star in the sky, Sirius. So today, we are synchronized with the star Sirius, and the solar revolution of the Earth begins. Sirius represents intuition, the secret sun, and that is sort of the landmark that is today and will be the coming year, intuition, the inner wisdom. For this reason, that day, all the energies of the year come together. For the Mayans, this was very special, and that is why they considered it an optimal time to prepare the soul, purify the spirit, and reflect and meditate before starting a new cycle. So this is sort of the convergence of time, spirituality, and the soul. Precisely because of the cleansing and healing rituals with Mother Earth, the day out of time is known as the Green Day. 3 psycho circles that represent art, science, and spirituality, with a larger one that represents culture, make up the emblem of the day, which is the day of peace. That's a link to that particular wisdom. And according to the Mayan calendar, July 25th is a day out of time. There are many who argue that the Gregorian calendar, which we use by the imposition of Pope Gregory the 13th, is not in sync with the time of the universe, the January 1st to December 31st, since we count that the Earth goes around the sun for 365 days, and every 4 years we add 1 day more. This results in a mismatch that affects, according to our perception of the environment and reality itself. If we took a calendar like the Mayan one, we could possibly begin to perceive the synchronicities that would happen to us more clearly. So for those who are into the ascension mean, as we move in the expansion of consciousness out of 3rd density into 4th density, 5th dimension, the Mayan calendar and its daily sort of intuition and prompts is a much more apt calendar than the Gregorian calendar, which was Vatican imposition of its particular rigid order. Today, the day is a time to celebrate life, love, peace, forgiveness, art, time as art, and to remember that everything in the universe is perfectly connected and that we still have time to take a different course in our way of life. Time is one of the elements of creating our life. And these are prayers that we can use: the east, the north, the west, the south, heaven, earth, and the heart. And this is from Carla Olmedo, the energies of the Mayan calendar during July 19th to 20th, 2019, and the fulfillment of the Xico Xavier prophecy. You can go to that link at exopolitics.com, and she's prepared the energies both for that time, the fulfillment of the prophecy, and back in the original July 19 to 21, 1969, and we're sort of running out of time. So, but you can go to the exopolitics.com. So what is this Mayan New Year coming up? It's the Mayan year of the electro yellow seed. And it's knowing when to speak and when to remain silent just in time. It's like, in order to create your great vision, it's being sensitive that way. First, the governing energy for the whole year, we would learn good verbal and spiritual communication. The second governing energy, the great learning and gift of the year, it is 365 days of efforts and challenges to materialize healthy and constructive things that are deeply linked to your heart, to give you a lot of emotional well-being and renew a stage of your life and forgive your past. This again is from Carla Olmedo. Third energy, to achieve healthy and constructive things for your life, and have a verbal and spiritual communication with everything that surrounds you. Your intuition and your emotions will help you attract that healthy reality you want. The fourth energy, the advice of the creator of the universe. If you want to bring a new vision to the world, you must leave the past and enter a new energetic vibration. You will cooperate with the world, leaving old places and entering new ones. Leave behind old habits. People in time will understand why you did. What kind of situations will the universe bring during this coming Mayan year? First, governing energy throughout the year. The purpose is for you to achieve good verbal and spiritual communication with yourself and with everything around you. The second governing energy is materializing healthy and constructive things that are deeply linked to your heart, that give you a lot of emotional well-being, and that help you renew a stage of your life. The third governing energy, in order for you to achieve the two previous energies, you must follow your intuition. So follow your intuition and your emotions. They will help you bring the reality you want. And the three purposes to achieve such a learning. One, you will learn to speak or to shut up just in time for good communication with yourself and with others, or not to make a situation worse. Two, learn to bring to the planet a new vision of the world that you feel in your heart and then you know it is possible to materialize. And third, that you learn to discover harmony, beauty, art, and elegance within any difficult situation, that you live in your daily life, that you learn to accept yourself as you are with your defects and virtues, that you become aware that you are an artist of your own life. You are the architect of your life, and that your life is a great work of art. Therefore, the universe will be asking you to build your life with love and dedication, so much to favorable or adverse situations. Make a front to favorable and adverse situations that come into your life. Thank you very much. These are just some places that you can reach me. It's been a great pleasure to share this with you today. Thank you so much. And so over to you. I'm not sure what's going next. Are there questions or comments?
Do we have any questions for Alfred? Comments? Very fascinating subject. We had another speaker on about Mr. Xavier who had done a documentary on his life. It was very interesting as well.
Beautiful.
Boy, he was right on the money with those predictions. Seems
Yes.
like he really was. He really was. Well, have any other questions or comments?
Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very
Thank
much,
you, Alfred.
Alfred.
Totally. Okay. Well, thank you very much then. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you for joining us.